I have been aware for some time that the monopoly of invisible powers over American media has trapped the American consumer into a, a sound bite for a gun store that is trying to come up with the best commercial for itself. Now, there are parables that are told. For example, when George Bush went berserk in Iraq, he made up a story about weapons of mass destruction. And when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, he was suddenly Hitler. And all of these time worn slogans about Churchill would have stood up to Putin in Donbass and so on. And it's very stale and it doesn't instill a lot of confidence because it's monotonous. It doesn't grasp the realities of the present age. But media is organized to make zombies of us, to say, yes, we know automatically that only a fool believes in nonviolence. There's a scene that might have come out of a black building with no windows in the original War of the Worlds film, where a preacher goes out with his Bible to face the Martians. And this is the way they characterize things like Martin Luther King. There's a scene in a film called Wizards. It's a cartoon film. And the good wizard tries everything to ward off his evil brother. And finally he says, I'll show you a trick. He pulls out a Luger and bang, and shoots his brother, right? And you're supposed to go, wow, that's the nature of reality. And that's when Fern Hollow Bridge Gang of the University of Pittsburgh invites you to a frat Bohemian Grove gathering where they come in their hoods and they wear their onks and they gather around the piranha fishbowl to observation of piranha. And this is the mentality that's being promoted from the media. I don't need to tell you that it was a cruel and criminal smackdown against nonviolence where they hid a little storyline behind my back about John Lennon, queer ball, queer, those are nonviolence, queer ball. Now, there are historic societies like Christianity that mock people who think that they can persuade the evil genie in the psychology of the human race to behave. I mean, Jesus was God, right? And he had a crucifixion waiting for him. Other stories have been told. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, somebody gets his heart to grow, show me the truth. And he gives all the things that he stole back to the people he stole it from. And they forgive him. There are things that you find difficult to believe about some of these movements in our society. White is a good one. My father gave his life advocating for black people. My mother worked as hard as a human being could possibly work till 2 or 3 in the morning, grading papers to teach underprivileged and mostly black students at a community college her entire career. When they started taunting me because Reagan told them, oh, you'll get ahead this way. If you wreck the white, you'll feel better. Cowhooves therapy, they were calling it. When they began taunting me that they wanted to do it, really, really do it to a white, and taunting me about Parkinson's, I told myself they can't possibly mean that. Just as Martha Gellhorn told me I couldn't possibly mean it when I reported that there was a word game clock to AIDS. You can't mean that. Well, they did mean it. They gave me Parkinson's. And they really dug it because they got a white Reckaway. Do it for the Gipper. The mentality that comes out of the media today, for example, where you have people saying, why didn't you protest ISIS when they were beheading people? Well, it was summed up in the killing fields when they was asking that about the Khmer Rouge. And the reporter says it shows you what kind of madness billions and billions of dollars worth of bombing will inflict on the traumatized people who suffer the bombings. Now, if you look at Palestine, they weren't in a state of Arab Spring. They weren't nonviolently trying to rise up. Some little faction came out and started throwing, torches at the Israelis. And they triggered a huge backlash, which they must have known what they were going to do. And that was the root of the thinking problem that goes on in the leadership of the human race. Because those Hamas guys tell themselves we're martyrs if they're expendable for a higher cause. And all of this gunboat diplomacy, gun sales psychology. There's a story in the concentration camp where bullets become so scarce that the concentration guard has a mystical moment when he's told that the bullet is worth more than the Jew. The bullet is worth more than the Jew. It's a horrifying passage in one of the testimonies, but this is the sort of thing that goes on in the human race's psyche as a result of this dreadful brainwashing of the idea that anybody who believes in constructive social change is like that Christian priest going to the Martians with a Bible. This is a perfect study of a fool. The root of the problem is the way that these leaders get it through their heads that we're expendable in a cause. We need to develop the International Criminal Court and increase the influence of global society over the UN Security Council so that society can move with international law when it is needed. But when you look at Palestine, it was a congested area. It was one of the most densely populated areas. Gaza was the most densely populated areas in the globe. Yet those people wanted to be alive. They loved their families. They loved their children. Children loved their mom and father. So happiness was possible. We have a planet and a species that would be able to work together. It's not legally impossible. And they say, mankind has never been peaceful. Well, mankind has never been able to talk to everybody at once. Mankind has never had a chance to reason together. Mankind has never faced ecological catastrophe that was dominated the world. Too many issues divide us culturally. Cultural competence has been hot-wired. There's still regional sovereignty. So that's one of the things that Russia keeps saying. We arm ourselves to the teeth and refuse to care for the health and welfare of people. And we get these hicks coming from this appellation from the hidden rooms of the NAACP who say the only people who know are the union local. And they have Edgar Casey people on the beat who go out and communicate. You know what I'm saying? I think you understand what we're up to now. And you the target, So it doesn't mean just because it's possible for it to sink in that health and welfare are possible, that global communications about our ecological predicament are possible, that it's possible to restore the environment rather than destroy it. It's possible to preserve cultures that we don't understand. People seem to think that at root of all cultural differences that there's the extreme element of Cameroon where they shrink heads and things like this. Chomsky talks about the violence of Western capitalism provoked in Indonesia in his studies and books. And Indonesia had a very dense communist movement. The point is in all of our societies, China, it's good to see Biden talk to Xi. China, America, Russia, the great powers and the small powers as small as Gaza, have common interests that the world can see. We saw that from this terrible ordeal with Gaza. Everybody had their outpouring of hope that it could be stopped, that these people need to be saved, that we protest together to make sure that it gets through to the children at risk, that we do care. That's helpful. That's meaningful. And we have to guard ourselves against the boogie monster stories that media is all charged up to spread. You know, they're all charged up to tell us, oh, you think you understand Muslims. Wait till the ISIS warriors start chopping off heads in your neighborhood. And they'll get some guys from Make America Great Again to dress up as Abdul and get you. This is a hot wiring job from the gun shop crowd who want to sell their weapons, and they're trying to come up with a slogan. Don't be the Grinch. Don't be the Grinch. Don't reform. Don't care in the end. Don't let your heart grow 3 sizes bigger. Don't let that happen. No. Shop and save. Guns be us.